It's 2 a.m., and you're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling that feels heavier than your own eyelids. You replay the conversation from earlier tonight, the one where he brushed off your questions with a dismissive chuckle. The one where he said the 6 words that made your stomach churn and your heart twist. You can still taste the uncertainty in your mouth. You can still hear the ghost of his voice echoing, "You're just being too sensitive." Those words linger, and they hurt because deep down, something isn't right. You feel it in the tension of his touch, the distance in his eyes, the occasional stammer in his once confident tone. You can sense a breach of trust, and maybe your body is screaming to be heard. When a man utters words that invalidate your instincts, there's a hidden sign flashing behind them. It's like a message coded in the flicker of his gaze. He might say, "You're overreacting," or "You always do this." Or maybe it's not what you think. Simple phrases, 6 words, perhaps fewer or more. But the meaning weaves through them. Don't trust your feelings. Don't listen to your instincts. Turn off your gut. Those are the 6 words disguised in any phrase that aims to cloud your intuition. And often, these words serve a purpose: to deflect, to distract, to keep the truth hidden in the shadows. Attachment theorist John Bowlby once said that the earliest bonds we create shape our capacity to trust and feel secure. In a healthy relationship, a partner's words are gentle anchors, guiding you back to a safe harbor. But when you're with someone who's cheating, someone who knows they're being dishonest, there's a subtle warping of language. Words become weaponized. Tone becomes a masquerade. Instead of saying, "I'm here for you," he might say, "I can't keep reassuring you." Which sounds reasonable on the surface, until you notice the subtle blame it places on you for wanting to feel safe. Emotional regulation, as Dr. John Gottman would put it, is the dance between lovers, how we manage the tide of feeling that surges when we connect intimately. In a faithful relationship, this dance feels synchronistic, like a steady waltz of mutual care. In a relationship stained by infidelity, the music shifts, the steps become chaotic, and the 6 words he says might seem like offbeat claps, jarring you out of the rhythm you once trusted. Let's talk about the red flags hidden in these words. You're imagining things again. That's 7 words, yes, but the essence is the same. He's telling you that your reality is false. You suspect a change in his behavior, a late-night text that made him jump, or an unexplained distance in his voice, and he counters with a phrase that puts the blame on you. In that moment, he's not comforting you or addressing your concerns. He's sowing doubt in your own perception, so you mistrust your ability to see what's really going on. "It's your fault, I'm distant." Again, might not be precisely 6 words, but the energy is there. He flips the script, suggesting if there is a gap, you're the reason. Instead of acknowledging the possibility that he's investing his emotional resources elsewhere, he tries to convince you that you're driving him away. Here's the heartbreak. Relationships are about shared accountability. Yet, in the mind of someone cheating, projecting guilt onto you is easier than confronting their own betrayal. "She's just a friend. Relax." Harmless on the surface, but if your instincts are waving a red flag, that statement can hit like a hot iron. In healthy scenarios, indeed, she might just be a friend. But in the cheating scenario, he's minimizing your concern. He's telling you to relax when your intuition is already on high alert. And the discrepancy between his dismissive words and your pounding heart reveals an emotional truth. You're picking up on cues that he's trying to hide. In these moments, you become a detective of your own relationship, analyzing every shift of his posture, every delay before he answers, every hush when his phone buzzes. Yet you hesitate because you don't want to cross lines of trust. You don't want to become the suspicious partner who checks phones at midnight. But here's the truth. If you're battling between the fear of violating his privacy and the agony of ignoring your own intuition, you might already have the answer you don't want to face. Picture a lighthouse on a dark, stormy coast. Its glow is faint, flickering through the fog. That lighthouse is your intuition. The night sky is your confusion. Each time he utters those red flag words, "You're just being paranoid. Calm down, you're crazy. It's all in your head." He's essentially throwing a heavy cloak over that lighthouse, hoping you'll lose sight of its guidance. Because if you continue to trust that guiding light, you'll see the truth illuminating the entire sky. And in that truth, you might walk away from him, from the lies, from the deception he's tried to bury beneath your loyalty. Attachment theory reminds us that our sense of self-worth is deeply woven into how we bond. When betrayal creeps in, it feeds a darker narrative. Maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I'm too needy. Maybe love always abandons me. This is where shame can masquerade as self-reflection. But remember, guilt can be constructive when it leads us to correct our own flaws. Shame tears us down at our core, making us believe we are the flaw itself. If a man is cheating, one of his most potent moves is to redirect the shame he should be feeling back onto you. To say directly or indirectly, "You're too clingy, you're too demanding, you're too emotional." He deftly sets fire to your sense of security, then looks at you with a sad shake of his head as if your tears are uncalled for. And that is precisely the moment you need to come home to yourself. To remember that love isn't a courtesy you must beg for. Love is something you co-create with someone who meets you halfway. I once knew a woman who, for years, interpreted her husband's remarks as harmless frustration. "Stop acting like you know everything." She told herself it was just a little marital banter. But over time, these words chipped away at her trust in herself. She began to doubt her intuition, her intelligence, her capacity to read the subtleties of his shifting moods. Until she uncovered a series of hotel receipts, hidden away in the dusty corner of her trunk, revealing a pattern of infidelity. For months, she replayed those words in her head, thinking, "If only I'd listened to my instincts when they first whispered to me." Realize that your intuition is not an enemy. It's an alarm system gifted by your biology and sharpened by your life experience. Our ancestors relied on intuition for survival, scanning faces and terrain for signs of danger. In the modern world, we do the same with emotional cues. When you sense something is off, it often is. Trust that first response. Consider the power of your own narrative. If he's cheating, he's trying to rewrite your story, turning you into the paranoid partner, the untrusting villain, the insecure one. But you get to define your role. Don't allow him to cast you in a part that only serves his lies. Write yourself as the heroine who trusts her sense of truth, who stands firm in her self-worth, who demands honesty. Know that confrontation doesn't have to be a drama-fueled explosion. It can be a calm, grounded statement. "I feel something is wrong, and I won't abandon myself by ignoring it." The greatest power you have is to stand in your truth with grace. Yes, you might risk hearing an ugly reality, but nothing is uglier than dragging yourself through the mud of denial, day after day, pretending everything is fine. Betrayal isn't just about the act itself. It's about the break in emotional safety. If a man is cheating, his words and his actions will be out of sync. He might say, "I love you," but show reluctance when asked to spend quality time. He might claim, "I want us to grow," yet finds excuses to avoid meaningful conversations about your future. Notice the gap between his mouth and his moves. That gap is where deception hides. It's possible he's caught in his own trauma loops, repeating patterns he learned from childhood, or grappling with an avoidant attachment style that compels him to run from true intimacy. While it can explain his behavior, it does not excuse it. You have the right to set boundaries that protect your emotional well-being. If you sense he's not being faithful, the reason he's not faithful isn't your responsibility to fix. He has to do that work on his own. If a man says words that make you doubt your own mind, your own heart, your own worth, pause. Take a breath. Remember, you are not broken, you are not unlovable, you are not lacking. You are a woman with a heart that feels, a mind that intuits, and a soul that recognizes truth even when it tries to hide in the corner of a dark room. Love isn't a lighthouse, it's a fire, and both partners feed it with trust, honesty, and vulnerability. If he's dousing that fire with the waters of deceit, the flame will flicker. Your glow might dim, but it will never die, not as long as you remember to tend to it yourself. Sometimes, we stay silent because we fear being alone more than we fear being lied to. But consider the cost of that silence. Each time you swallow your intuition, you swallow a piece of your own light. Over time, you might forget your voice entirely, but you have the power to choose differently, to say, "I see what you're doing, and I trust myself enough to step away," if you won't give me truth. That's not a threat. It's a declaration of self-respect. When he tries to spin the story, stay grounded. Let him twist and turn his words, but hold on to your center. If you discover he's cheating, let the heartbreak be real. Let the tears fall. Let the shock settle. But once the dust clears, look in the mirror and speak softly to the reflection that meets your gaze. I believe you. I stand by you. I choose you. Because the greatest betrayal is the one we commit against ourselves when we discount our own reality. Healing from infidelity isn't about punishing the other person. It's about reclaiming your sense of self. Reconnecting the lines between your head, your heart, and your gut. Remember, what we call love sometimes is an entanglement of unsaid fears and illusions. True love is clarity, even when it's difficult. True love doesn't hide behind deflections or condemn the feelings of the one it claims to cherish. If a man repeatedly uses words to deny your lived experience, "You're crazy. You're making this up. You're being so dramatic," recognize that you are not hearing love, you're hearing manipulation. Does that automatically mean he's cheating every single time? Perhaps not. But it does mean there's a fundamental lack of respect for your emotional reality. And that in itself is a kind of betrayal. Let your own body speak to you. Notice the tension in your jaw, the knot in your stomach, the goosebumps pricking your skin when he casually says, "Stop overthinking." Your body is that lighthouse, shining into the darkness. If you feel the electric spark of your intuition, pay attention. Cheating is rarely just a moment of physical betrayal. It's an energy that creeps in, making everything feel slightly off-kilter. Your body picks up on it before your mind can articulate it. Let that be your compass. As you navigate these turbulent waters, hold on to your sense of possibility. Because not all storms sink the ship. Some storms reveal the character of the crew. If he's willing to come clean, to face the truth, to rebuild from ashes, perhaps redemption is possible. But if his only response is more gaslighting, more denial, more walls around the truth, then your path forward may be one of self-preservation and liberation. In other words, letting go. And so we circle back to those 6 words. Maybe they're, "You're out of your mind," or "Don't start this again." Maybe they're, "I swear you're wrong," or "You can't prove anything." The exact phrase might vary, but the feeling is the same. He's shutting down your awareness, silencing your voice. If you hear those words, step back, reflect, and realign with what you know to be true. At the end of the day, the deepest power you hold is your own self-worth. If a man is cheating, his words will betray him before his actions ever do, if you know how to listen. And that's not about suspicion, that's about sovereignty. You deserve loyalty. You deserve safety. You deserve a love that kindles your soul, not one that starves it. When you reclaim your voice, you reclaim your reality. And in your reality, you get to decide when enough is enough, when to leave or when to demand change. That choice is your power, your birthright, your promise to yourself. Which part of this spoke to you the most? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if this message found you at the right time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We're building something powerful together.